got it open yet. I better turn my speaker up a little bit. There, is that better? Yes. Looks like we are right there. All right, we do have backwoods law in here. Painting the roses red. I gotta enlarge it. Sorry, you guys. Kyle's in here, old man. Bradley Height. Mickey, how you doing? You're blue, darn. Purple T-Bear. Southern Ohio Prepping, and I guess Walker will be here when he gets here. He said he was not home yet. I wanted him to talk to you guys about the ham radio stuff. He's the grand poopah now. He's taking all the tests. That's why he hasn't been around. He's been trying to get it all taken care of. Hey, CR. I'll wait for a few minutes to get everybody going here, and I can finish setting up. You can talk if you want, Southern Ohio, while I get it finished up.
You sure you want to destroy everybody's computers by hearing me talk?
I can't hear you. Can you turn your volume up a little bit?
How about now? Can you hear it okay now?
Yeah, I can hear you better. I've got mine all the way up, so I know it's not me. Okay, guys, we're going to talk about bugging in. It's going to be bugging in during SHTF. There's some things you should know about it. I'm going to be reading from my notes.
Well, I think you just muted yourself. Okay, it looks like Will muted himself.
I sure did. Can you hear me now?
There you go.
Yeah, I was just trying to hide. Well, that's weird. Every time I try to turn me off, it goes on mute. How do I fix that, Bruce? Oh, he's not up here. No, I should be here. I'll get it all straightened out, and then I'll start. I see that now, backwoods. I better watch my mouth, huh? Hey, Prep Fort, how you doing? Remember, you guys, if you don't know each other, make sure that you're checking each other out.
Can you
Tonight we're going to talk.
Sorry,
Tonight you can hear me, right? SOP?
Yes, I can hear you, but they said they can't hear me.
They can't hear you. Well, you're sounding loud enough now. Can everybody hear SOP now? Tron Chasers, there you go, Lou. Hopefully X won't have to take care of anybody in here. Knock on wood. Okay. We're going to talk about bugging in during SHTF, and that I've already had this plan for a while, but it kind of goes hand in hand with what Backwoods Law did tonight. I was in there. You guys know that, though. So most people are going to bug in. We already know that, but there's some things that you should know. You're not just going to be able to wait out by living your life regularly every day, So the easiest thing is just to be prepared. Have a plan in place. It's comfortable at home, so you want to eat regularly like you do right now in the beginning anyway, because you're going to be stressed out anyway, so you want to kind of roll into digging into your prep stuff, And so it's comfortable and familiar, which reduces your stress and is already, because you're already in a stressful situation. When you're at home, you've got all the comforts that you're used to. So if you just go ahead and start using your everyday food, your everyday drinks and stuff like that, it's going to take some of that edge off, some of the stress. So what you do is you just kind of to assess what's going on outside to see how severe your issue is. It's best just to go ahead and eat your regular food and stuff like that, drink your water. But it also, you've got to have space for your food and water and stuff. So most people is why they're bugging in is because they feel comfortable and they already have their preps taken care of. So that's one of the main reasons they stay in one place. So you know the house inside and out, and it helps you when it comes to security and defense, right? So you're surrounded by your neighbors who could be or could not be your best friend. It depends, like here where I live, there is really, Mike popped in for a minute, you guys. He's trying to get here. Anyway, if you're like me, the only neighbor I knew lived next door, but he moved out. So now I really don't know anybody around me. It's not from lack of trying; they just not friendly, I guess. Pretty likable guy, but people here are way different from when I lived in Washington State. I mean, out there everybody talks to everybody, but here everybody just kind of sticks to themselves. So you already have the space for your food and your water and your supplies, and you're going to need that, right? So what you want you to do is, shoot, I lost track of thought. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm not feeling good today. So you know your house inside and out, which helps when it comes to security and defense. But you're supposed to be surrounded by your neighbors and able to help things out. Help you out when things go sideways. So if you're bugging in, there's a lot of things you got to consider, you guys. This, you should already know, most of us in here are preppers. Some of us are here to learn about prepping. And those are the ones we want to try to reach out to so that they're prepared. So first you have to figure out who you're prepping for. And then you have to figure out what they're capable of. This all comes back into play into what you guys were talking about backwoods. And I was just sitting there chuckling to myself saying, oh man, he's going to help me by leading into it. So also you have to figure out what people can do in your house, because you may have small children that can't do much. But if you're like me, I've been teaching my kid what to do ever since he's a kid. He was interested in Boy Scouts, and we go out shooting and fishing and camping and stuff. So for me, it'd be easy. He'll probably do anything that he has to do. But for others, you may have like small babies or small children that can't be doing much. But in my opinion, is that uh, like I would say 1.5, you could start teaching them like to put stuff away so that they can start learning what's going on. So you just have to plan. It comes back to planning, making sure that everybody has a job to do and that who you're prepping for is all accounted for. So you also have to figure out what disasters you could be facing. You know, every area of the United States has different things like hurricanes or tornadoes or floods. Shoot, there's a ton of stuff, earthquakes, whatever. You know, everybody has a different disaster in their area, but not everybody has uh, a disaster plan. So anyone can prep for a nuclear attack. We all do as preppers. We do anyway. We're all practicing or joking around about the zombie apocalypse. You know, so we know basically what we have to do, but it's our job also to teach the others what they have to do. So that's kind of what we do. We have these live streams. We sit here and we network, and everybody listens to everybody talk, and some of it sinks in, some of it doesn't. But we're hoping that it does because we live in unsure times now, for sure, right? But you're going to have to prepare for whatever disaster comes in your area. This is all just common sense stuff, you know. And some people just don't know to prepare, you know. Like here where I live in Nebraska. We have a lot of tornadoes. They actually call it Tornado Alley because we have so many of them during the spring and summer months. So we're always preparing for what happens if our house gets mowed down or you know things like this. If it was to be like a zombie apocalypse, that would be different, you know, because you probably have to bug out right from the very start. Or that now, all this is just my opinion. I could be wrong. You guys can tell me whatever you want, but so when it comes to a nuclear attack or a pandemic, where you live will be a big factor. If you live near a military base, maybe you live where there's would be a lot of fallout, you know, if there was a nuclear attack. Or maybe you just live in an area that's easy to bug out to if necessary. Maybe your bug out location is close to you, you know, or maybe it's someplace you can get to within a couple of days. So it's important to consider all of these points because after you have them, you can move on to make a plan for bugging in. You make sure that you know who you're preparing for. Make sure you know what they're going to do. You look at the geological issues. You look at the zombie issues. You do all that stuff. So after you do all that, then most people will start prepping for is like their food and their water and stuff. So if we go to food, when you're bugging in, we always seem to store food and water. So here's some of the tips on storing food. This is all my idea, you guys. Is remember that these can be changed to whatever your needs are. I might have different needs than you, so you may want to substitute, throw in whatever, but a minimum of 2 weeks of regular food. And then you want to make sure that in the beginning, you want to make sure that your family's eating what they're used to. It's actually called regular food. Like tonight we had breakfast, you know, so you just go ahead and eat what you do all the time. Slowly, as the disaster expands, what you do is you figure out whether it's going to be short term, long term, mid term, long term. You know, these are the things that you'll just be watching for. So you want to make sure that you have 2 weeks of regular food. And this is food that your family will eat every day, or used to eating on every day, and have at least 6 months to a year of food that will last from 25 to 30 years. These would be things like MREs, freeze dried food, Costco emergency food, Legacy and Wise, the bucket food, stuff like this. So if you have all that put together, next thing you would want to do is think about what you're going to do if you run out of food, because the food's certainly not going to last forever. So you'd want to think about seeds for sprouts. And you might ask me why, but it's because you won't always have regular food. You may not have access to fresh food that your body needs. So then you start sprouting. If you think about sprouting, then you could do things like mustard seeds or sunflower seeds or lentils, maybe. Things like this, things that could make you survive in a pinch. And these are all things you have to consider to make sure that you're going to survive if you're going to bug in. You make sure that you have food, you're growing sprout foods that are full of nutrients that require very little water. So also you'll need seeds to grow in the ground. And I've got a couple of big 3-pound coffee cans stuffed as many as I can get in there of seed packets. Now, you want to make sure that the seeds that you have are going to be and that would be more of a long-term solution, just in case the disaster lasts from like months or maybe even into years. Think of it as your own personal seed vault. Make sure that they're heirloom seeds, because they're the easiest to grow. They say they're idiot proof, but if it can be killed, I can do it. And an example of that would be stuff like kale, spinach, radishes, carrots, broccoli, garlic, tomatoes, peppers, peas, or even beans. So that's just an example of what you should think about growing. Like I said, these are all my thoughts, not yours. You can substitute them around, but you have to grow what you're going to be able to eat. Like we all have our own preferences. They do have GMO seeds out there. I was going to bring that up, and I just slipped by my. I'm looking at the chat, you guys, taking a break. Hey, Chico, how you doing? Okay, we seem to be doing okay. I'm sure glad somebody brought that up about the GMO seeds, because you can buy those things. I should probably buy them, but I'm poor, so I buy what I can afford. Okay, if you're able to do so, grow some livestock. Yeah, that sounds kind of funny. Chickens for the meat and for your eggs, and then you can have some goats. That's good for meat and also milk. You might think about having some pigs and maybe a couple of cows if you got the room to put them out. So if you're living in the city, you probably won't be able to have cows, or, well, maybe. I guess you could if it's WWROL. So if you have the space, the key is to have enough food put away for the short term, also the long term, and then for the very long term. You got anything to add there, SOP? Well, I'm kind of at a breaking point here in my page. Is he here? I'm not muted. I know I'm not muted. Did he have to step away? I guess we'll go on then. So, let's see. Remember, in a survival situation, that your body reacts are going to likely be up because you'll be doing more. Hey, P2E. Okay. You'll be doing more physical activity, and you'll be doing it just to survive. So plan on how much food that you'll need based on your calorie intake for your daily activity. Now, if you guys, most of you guys probably know that for a 30-day period, a woman needs like 60,000 calories, probably even more than that, but this is an estimate. And men would probably need for 30 days, probably around 75,000. So when storing your food over the long term, store them in airtight containers and with lids. You guys listened to this earlier, but it's my show, so sorry. I'm not going to apologize. So, and then if you're going to put them in there, make sure that you throw in a couple of those oxygen absorbers, and that'll keep your food fresh. Yeah, back here yet, SOP?
Yes, I am. Just got back.
You got something you want to put in there? I'm sort of breaking point, and then we'll go into, well, I got about half a page, and then we can get into waste. So if you have anything to say, sorry, you guys, my eyes are.
All right. You were talking about security.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can do this whole screen share thing.
Good luck. I couldn't get my image to come up.
Right.
I could, but I'd go where you guys couldn't hear me. Go for it.
I'm trying, but I don't think it's going to work.
Yeah, you're like me. It mutes when you go up, huh? See, I tried to do that too, but it mutes me.
All right, hold on.
I can hear you. Can they? If they can hear you, you should be able to go.
All right. Can anybody see the picture that's up there now?
You guys
there
see
we go.
There you go.
Okay. So for security, these aren't just for outdoors. These could be worked for indoors too. If you're bugging in and you need to find it, because everybody's got to sleep. You know, if you're a single family, you don't have very many people in your home. You need a way to have something triggered to let you know somebody's breaking into the house. So one way, and this is fifthops.com. They have 12-gauge perimeter alarms. It's a pretty basic system. It uses a 12-gauge blank. It's loud. They're flashbangs. But if you scroll down through their website, yeah, they got thermite too. They also have other types. You can buy just shotgun primers, and you can go with something like this. They have mini flashbangs. They also have pepper blasts. I mean, there's multiple options here for indoor and outdoor security.
Yeah, now, I did one of those.
Now, as far as windows, eventually you're going to have to black out your windows as well. There's two things, or two types of thought on this. One is just to spray paint them black. I don't advise that. Depending on the style of windows you have, the best way to do it would be to, let me turn off screen share real quick. There we go, I think. Anywho.
You're good.
The best way to do it is build what they call a shadow box. Paint the inside of the box black. Do not paint your windows. Then seal around the box with black tape. Don't use gray duct tape because light will go through it. You want to use something like a black Gorilla Tape. You want to seal it off so any downstairs windows have absolutely no light coming through, but you also want to leave your blinds in place so it looks like it's just dark inside the apartment. For an upstairs unit, you want to use bags that can be moved in the evening to let airflow in and not letting any light out when you do it, of course. Again, you want to use a black tape so light doesn't go through it. Now in the wintertime, if you're using, say, 5 mil garbage bags for the top of your windows, I would get something like Reflectix for the inside. That way, the heat that you have generated inside the home will be reflected back in and not leak out through your windows. Just a few quick, simple tips on that.
You could also have like pieces of plywood leaned up against the wall so you could cover them up if you were to be attacked or something.
That's why you would take and build a shadow box. It leaves a little bit of room, so if they try breaking in, they're only going to get in so far, and a shadow box will be a lot more sturdy compared to just a standard piece of plywood.
Yeah. I was going to tell them about the plastic too. Thanks. You did good. Plastic is so that when people go by at night, they don't see light in your house.
Right. In a grid down situation and you have no place to go, like me, I mean, if it comes down to, say, an EMP event or something like that, I definitely don't want anybody knowing I got flashlights, solar power, anything like that. So I have to eliminate any and all possibility from somebody being able to look into my apartment and even think that there's somebody in here.
Yeah.
Again, that's why I'm going to pick up, because I got to pick a couple of those up myself, a couple of those 12-gauge alarms. You can wire them across windows. You can run a tripwire across the door and the window. And the sound of a 12-gauge going off, even though it's not an actual 12-gauge, should be enough to dissuade most anybody once they first come in through the door.
Yeah, the one I made was one of those window alarms. I just took the alarm and I tied it off to the fence, and I took the line and took it over the other side of the fence from the gate. And then I called my son to come to me, and he came right through there, and it pulled the pin on the thing, and it was so darn loud that the neighbors were looking at us. So anything that makes noise would be a good thing,
Yeah, even those cheaper ones that use a 12-gauge primer, because a 12-gauge primer is going to be a lot easier to pick up at, say, a local Bass Pro Shops or Field and Stream. Pick up one of those little ones. Let me look real quick. Those were like $15, $25 for the primer one, and they're $30 for the perimeter big one. So it's a $5 difference. But the cost of the blanks would be the huge thing, unless you wanted to use, say, the pepper spray or something like that. You'd have to go with the bigger one, $30 unit. But
yeah, you should pick them up before it happens too, you guys. Just have them in a closet or something, because something actually happens, you may not be able to get to them. May not have the opportunity. Did I lose you?
Nope, I'm still here. I just had to mute myself for a second so I could cough and not deafen everybody. I spent too much time outside today, and I think I'm coming down with a cold. I wasn't wearing a jacket.
I've had a cold for a couple of weeks now. Can't seem to shake it off.
But let's go back to where you started with food. It's been stated in a few other chats, and I agree. If you're going to have a lot of food stored, store it in a cool, darkened area. If you're like me and live in an apartment, I have many areas stashed all over my apartment, and including a few places that you cannot readily access.
Yep.
That is not temperature stable. So I have foods up there that are not temperature, don't have to be monitored for temperature. Have canned goods down in your bottom cupboards that if you are raided, so to speak, you can give it to them and just cower back. Live to fight another day is the best way to do it. Don't try and take a stand, especially against an armed armada.
Yeah, if they want your food, if they want your food, they're going to come take it. Make sure you have it hidden, some of it hidden well enough that if they come, they'll just take what they can see and they'll probably leave. But that way, at least you have some left to endure with,
Right.
That's a good guideline to go by anyway. That's how I learned way back. Is actually, if you could afford it, you could make you a false wall. But that you could do that after the grid goes down. It's not like you have to do it right away, but the grid goes down and it's going to be for an extended amount of time, you're going to want to hide some of your preps so that if they were to come into your apartment or be able to get to you from your property line or whatever, off the road, then if you could just let them take whatever they want to try to save your own hide. And when they left, just break the wall down and take out what you need.
Another thing to think, though, too, is if they're coming into your home, you have to make sure you've built that wall and pre-planned it well enough for two reasons. One, to make sure they can't see it. Two,
Yep.
You also want to make sure that no critters can find their way into it. So you will have to seal it quite well. Because like where I live in an urban environment, but I live right next to a creek. One side of the road of me is a swamp, and 250 yards to the south of me is a cornfield. So I have mice year-round in my apartment and the apartments next to me, and it's an ongoing
At least you
task.
you could at least see them coming, though, from the way it sounds. And that was another point I was going to make down the road, but we can talk about it now. Is they're saying if you own your own property, to make sure that you have like hedges or a fence up, at least so that you can see them coming, but it deters them from coming through. And that way it gives you some time to prepare.
Yep. And you're right, Mike Gilbert. Rat traps and 209 primers do work quite well. They're pretty easy to set up, pretty cheap to do too. I mean, you can build your own pretty easily.
You could make your own booby traps, yep.
Another thing to think about, and it's something I've done, is go out and buy yourself a cheap surveillance system. You can get them off eBay for like 65, 70 bucks. Get ones that are 6-volt cameras that are wireless, and set up a secondary cord with some 6-volt batteries that are solar powered. That way, if the grid goes down for an unnecessary amount of time, you can still have video surveillance inside a darkened home. People aren't going to know you can see they're coming.
Yep. Make sure that they're you can see in the dark with them, yeah. Optics. So, guys, also we got to talk about the water. If the grid goes down, the water is going to be what you have, you're going to make sure you have filters to filter all your water. And we talked about this, I believe, last week. No matter what, boil your water. Even anything that you take outside of your home should be boiled. And if you can, get you a filtration system. They have Berkeys out there, but you can make your own Berkey a whole lot cheaper than you can buy a brand new one. And there's all kinds of videos on YouTube that will instruct you how to do that. And you can do it fairly cheap. I think, can't remember, is Nina here? She made one. I don't know what she spent, but it wasn't near what they cost if you go to the store and buy them.
My local Lowe's has those filters on sale for like 22 bucks a piece. You're going to spend, in my personal opinion, if you're going to build a water filtration system, get 8 or 10 of those filters, 2 buckets, and set up each bucket the 2 buckets, set up 1 bucket with 4 filters in it. That way you actually get the maximum filtration, the fastest water flow. Because like I say, I've got a creek beside me. And I know when it heavy rains, it's not safe to drink because I live not too far from a steel mill. But when the water is running fast, it's clear, it hasn't rained in a few days, the water is almost drinkable. All I got to do is filter it. And if I've got 4 filters in one of them 5-gallon buckets, I can have 3-4 gallons of water in under an hour that's drinkable and cookable with.
Absolutely. Another way is you could catch your rainwater too. You could have 55-gallon barrels coming down off your downspouts to catch it. Or you could even have buckets just set out around your house. Then you have to take all the gunk out of it, but you'll already have your water purifier in place, hopefully, by the time you need it. And filter it all out and boil it. That's another good way to get some water from outside. You could use it for showers and stuff like that. Maybe washing your clothes. Hey, Savage, I saw you come in. How you doing? No matter what we think about, you're still going to have plenty of water. People can go without food, but they can't go without water.
My 7-year-old has already learned that he can go. He's already learned the rule of threes.
Go find your favorite one is what I used to tell my son. We'd go out in the woods prancing around, and he'd say, "I gotta go potty, Daddy," and I'd say, "Go find your favorite tree." What else I gotta go over here? I'm trying to pick through this stuff so we're not going over everything that was talked about over at Backwoods. Sure, people don't want to hear it 3 times, you know.
Right. And Cindy Tepper, most, at least the ones I've ever dealt with, most health offices, county health offices, will test your water for you. If you tell them, hey, I have a well, but I don't know about its quality, most of them will test it for you and give you a printed out report.
So no matter how much you are, there's always going to be waste, both from food and from human consumption. You should learn how to take care of it so that you or the members of your group or family aren't getting sick. So let's see if I can get to where we are with that. They tell you not to take it out, and if you have any garbage to get rid of, you should take it out and bury it about 100 yards from your house. But you should try to use the other things that are being used, like the cans could be used for pots to cook with, or something like that, or pots to grow plants in, things like this. But if it's a glass jar, you could turn it into a drinking glass. There's a ton of stuff. Try to repurpose everything that you can, and just the garbage that you have left over, take it outside and bury it. If you have to go outside during the SHTF, you should walk out of your house looking like that you don't have nothing. I learned that a long time ago. You want to fool somebody, put on a bunch of ragged clothes and go wandering around, then they won't mess with you because they don't think you have nothing.
That brings up another point too, Will, and I'm sure others have thought of it. During the first few hours of any major SHTF event and the government's still operational, they may try to offer FEMA assistance to multiple areas. If you have stuff at home and you are going to those food offerings that they do provide, make sure you do not look like you have anything, because there are going to be people that are looking for somebody who looks way too clean, looks way too fed, way too happy to be standing inside a line trying to get some food. There are going to be people out there looking to hurt you to get what you get.
Yeah, so dressing like a bum is probably going to be the best thing ever in SHTF. There won't be no fashion shows for sure. Well, maybe the stupid ones. There's always got to be a stupid one in the bunch, you know. So they're telling you to recycle all the packaging, even the paper. If you have magazines or something and the pages get tore out, or some of the boxes come with packaging in them, and you take all that stuff out, you could even wad up your paper and use it for toilet paper if need be, and then burn all the paper goods. That'll help you start your fires and stuff. You want to really make sure that you're hiding what you have, because if they find out that you've got something, they'll probably come to get it. You know, the guys that don't have nothing are going to turn into the bad guys, in my opinion. They're going to go try to take what they need. So if you can repurpose all that stuff and just the little bit of stuff that's left over, make sure that you're taking it out and burying it far away from where you live, maybe on the back 40 of your property or something like this, you know. That way, they're not seeing you living high off the hog, so to speak. So the human waste is a big disposal is serious consideration. He says you can use the toilet, but you can't flush the toilet. You can flush the toilet as long as you have water. If you don't have water, you cannot use that toilet. You might get away with it once or twice, but it's not going to last very long. Without water or power, the sewers are going to back up. So you have to learn how to take care of the sewage and stuff like that.
Right.
That's
Not to interrupt, but that's why I actually have two different types of water stored. I have the 5-gallon blue water buckets that you store water into, and I have old 1-gallon milk jugs that I got stored. The 1-gallon milk jugs, they're not actually designed to store anything for a long period of time without the chemicals leaching into the water. So I have that just for toilet water. That's it. I got 20 gallons of just toilet water.
Yeah, but that's not going to last forever. You're still going to have to go out eventually and dig a hole and put some sort of crude apparatus there for people to huddle over and take their dumps, Without the electricity to run those pumps and stuff for the sewer, it's just not going to last very long. It depends on the length of the issue or the event going on. If it's a short issue, you might get away with it, but if it gets drawn out, you're going to have to know what to do to keep yourself and your family or your group safe and not sick. Seal the toilet. That's what Uncle Al says. Seal the toilet. And that's if you live in an apartment, he says. And old man says one of the best filters for solid particles is wet end wire. And he says that's from a paper mill salvage. I don't have a very big screen. And it's used to spray the paper pulp on and suction is used to remove the water. Well, that'd keep you busy making one of those, huh, old man? Yeah, that's why I'm telling you guys to make sure you're taking your sewage out and dumping it far away from your house so it's not running back down towards your house or on the top of a hill going down into a creek bed or a lake or something like that. You don't want to contaminate that water. You may need it sometime down the road.
Another thing you have to think about too is you don't want to mix number 1 with number 2. You want to keep the two separate when you're having to dispose of waste. Solid waste by itself will decompose a lot faster, but it has little to no moisture in it. So you want to make sure you keep the two separated.
Absolutely. If you have to go in the house, there's always the 5-gallon bucket thing. And go in the bucket and then have some kitty litter to cover it up with, just like a cat. That way, at least another person can come and go in the bucket again and only use the buckets for number 2, Put all your poo in there and keep covering it up with litter. And then when it gets full, you'll have to take it out and bury it. Some of them even come with toilet seats already. They're already pre-made. I saw some, I can't remember, Lowe's or Home Depot or something like that. And they're all over the internet. So if you have to have that fancy seat on them, I think even Walmart
has them. Luggable loo.
I think Walmart even has a portable seat for like $5 or $6. You gotta look on that very bottom shelf that's only about this far off the floor, but they have them down there. You can also get a biogel bag, and you can line your 5-gallon bucket with that, so that when you're going in there and you're covering it up with a light bunch of sewage, you can get the bag out of there and tie it up and make sure you got it nice and secure. And make sure you keep it like SOP says, make sure that you keep the urine away from it. And eventually you can take that out and dispose of it. And they say the best way to do it is to do it far away from your wherever you're living, wherever your living quarters are. And I believe it was in Backwoods' chat. They were saying something about the military bases. So you might be able to go to a military base if it hadn't been taken over by marauders. I think marauders would probably take them over first because then they would have all that fencing around them. They could recruit other bad guys. I still have this bad dream in the back of my head about that happening. But eventually, if it's long term enough, you could also build an outhouse. You could have the hole already dug, and then you could construct an outhouse to give the people some security from their stress. There's all kinds of things that you can do, and it keeps you busy too. That way, the stress level isn't working on you. Also, we can talk about power a little bit. When it comes to bugging in, you'll need to be very careful about your lighting. If you have a way to generate electricity, it can attract unwanted people from seeing it. It goes back to SOP talking about covering your windows with shadow boxes or black plastic or something like that, so that people can't see inside your house and see that you're living better than them, because that'll attract people. They'll go, hey, let's go over there to Will's. I was peeking in his windows. They got quite the setup over there. You don't want any of that going on. What do you think, SOP?
Yeah, it just goes right back to the security. If you don't have any kind of security operation in place, you have, it's like I say, plan for most everything. You be prepared for most anything.
Yeah.
And interior security, if you're not bugging out, you're bugging in. There's a list of things you need to have. Fish mocks, just for one thing. You need a weapon, be it firearms or a crossbow or something like that, to dissuade people from actually getting all the way in. Blacking out your windows is the first and foremost part of that, if you can't light. Also knowing your neighbors, knowing if you have any troublesome neighbors, making sure that they know not what you have, and making sure that the people that do know what you have don't know everything. I live next to a bunch of very young single mothers who have absolutely no clue that the government is going to hand them everything they need, and they cheat the system quite a bit. But they also know I prepare. They don't have any idea what all I have, but they've all made a comment, well, if it ever happens, we're coming to your house. And I told them, you'll beat the barrel of a double-barrel 12-gauge shotgun.
Yep, that's what I tell all my friends too.
And
I don't have to prepare.
For two reasons. One, to kind of shock them a little bit and give them the knowledge that I will protect what I have. But I've also told them, if you want to learn, I'm willing to help you learn and point you in the direction to get the things you need. Both of them, I've given them 72-hour kits, because they both have kids, the ones that live right on each side of me that like to roast me out. And they have actually started to learn. They're watching some of my videos. They're checking out other people. And they're asking the right questions. What do we need next? What kind, they've asked about security. And I said, well, as long as you're living next to me, if you have any problems, you beat on the wall, I'll show up with a gun and we'll deal with it. But I'm not going to jeopardize my son to protect yours. And that actually put a little bit of fear into them to actually make them want to do more. So in educating your neighbors, if you're living in an apartment complex, is key not only to your survival and their survival, but making sure the area where you live is safe. If you don't educate the neighbors up next to you, you're actually putting yourself into jeopardy. Even if it's only letting them know, look, this is what's going to happen if you knock on my door at 3 a.m. in the morning trying to take my stuff.
Exactly. You don't want them to know what you got.
Right.
Even if they live right next door to you.
Right. And to some people, that's going to sound rather harsh and crude, but if it gets down to a long-term SHTF event, I mean, we're talking 6-8 months. A lot of people are going to perish in the first 4 months. It's statistically proven. Chaos will reign. Like the old saying goes, we're 3 meals away from anarchy. Or is it 9 meals? Whatever. Anyway, these single parents, when they don't have food, they may be young girls, but met quite a few young girls in my life that turned very vicious when it comes to not having food for their children.
They do.
I really don't want to mess with them. I'd be like asking Mouse to put Velveeta in a canned jar.
Yeah, it's like when when everybody's saying, "Well, I have a generator," that could be more problems than what it's worth, because generators make a lot of noise. It's going to be kind of hard to hide the sound of that generator unless you know how to do it. Like you could buy some of that styrofoam stuff from Lowe's or Home Depot, and you could build something around it, but then you've still got to ventilate it. So you're always going to have a chance of the noise getting outside of your living space.
Right, and that's where solar power comes into handy.
Yep. That's my next thing is you can get you a couple of those cheap solar panels from Harbor Freight. They're not very much money, $99 or something, get you kind of a decent one. And you can just hardwire it right into your fuse box and just use it when you need to, just to get used to using it. And then when things went upside down, then you would have power nobody else would. You'd really want to make sure nobody knows about that. Another way is geothermal power. That's kind of space age for me. I'm an old guy, but that would be good. Heat pumps, but then you would probably need electricity for that. So that goes back to having solar power windows, or solar power built into your fuse box. How would you be able to have a geothermal package if you don't have power to power them? I'm not sure how those work.
Right.
Because all they are is just heat pumps.
I'm going to turn my camera on real quick and see if I can get this to show what I'm doing.
Oh, no. I see it.
Yeah, I'm going to break somebody's computer monitor. This is a Halo XT flashlight. And yeah, I'm kind of plugging it a little bit. I'll have a review for this on my channel soon. But
that's solar?
Yes, it is. It's a solar powered flashlight. It's got a cutter on it. It's got a glass breaker. It's got a compass on the bottom. Anyway,
that's cool.
This has multiple lights on it, multiple levels of light, solar powered. You can set this in the window and you'll have light indefinitely. Something like this could be a very useful item in a long-term event because you don't have to worry about batteries. It charges itself.
That big element in there, I bet it puts out a lot of light.
It's respectable. I'm not going to say it's a lot. It's actually 250 lumens out the front and about 200 lumens off the side on high. But it's also got red lights on. I mean, it's a great emergency vehicle for your car, but in a long-term event, something like this where you don't have to worry about breaking up something like one of these little chargers. This is a OLED charger for charging your, 18650s or whatever else you've got to get charged. Okay, I'm going to turn my camera off and quit scaring people now. Otherwise, they're going to run away from your channel.
That's what I tried to do that too, but it wouldn't work.
But those are, it's just, it comes down to preparing, and it gets to the event where you have to think about where you're at, the most probable scenario, plan for that. Then as a plan B, plan for the secondary possible events. Now, with our current state of economic and political climates, there is a host of things that could happen. Are they likely? No, but there is that possibility.
That small chance.
Right. And that's what you need to plan for. Plan for, grid going down for 6 to 8 weeks because of a political coup. That's
you heard that too, didn't you?
Right. It's within the realm of possibilities. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not saying go grab everything you got and go head to the woods, because the likelihood of you heading to the woods in a grid down situation when 99% of everybody else is thinking of the exact same thing, you're probably going to wind up running into people.
Yeah, that's like in backwoods law. They were talking about everybody wanting to bug out at the same time. It's not really possible for that. Everybody's issue is going to be different. And some people could be bugging out for the simple fact is somebody's already charged their house and threatened them, and they just want to escape to get away from them. So that's how I was thinking about it when they were talking about it over there. Is in my world is I would have a bug out bag sitting by the back door all the time, and if something really bad happened, that everybody in the house grabs a bag, and that way you're getting away with something, which is better than nothing. Or that's how I think about it anyway. That's just my thoughts, you know.
Yeah, and everybody has to plan for their area, and they have to plan for what they're accustomed to. You know, you can't take, like my neighbors. I got one that's 24 years old. She's got 2 kids, one of which is not even a year old yet. I cannot hand her a bug out bag and say, here, go in the woods and live. She's not going to make it. She'll be dead before her kids are dead. And that's just, you just can't do that. So you have to plan for what you're capable of doing and then work on it. Practice makes perfect. If you don't know how to take a ferro rod or a flint rock and a piece of cloth and a piece of steel and make a fire, practice it.
I can't make char cloth. I have tried and tried and tried. I just come up bonkers every time. But
I'll redo the video on how to do it, and I'll make sure I send you a link to it.
I am sure that I'm going to learn how to do that because it looks fairly easy, but
it is. But there is a trick to it.
So I just, I keep trying. I always come up with failures, and I'm pretty good. But if I make a video and I fail, I just show it anyway. But those I tried out first. I can't do it. Anyway, they also say that you can have a small solar charger if you had to, and that would charge your devices so that you can at least check to see if there's any life outside of where you're at. That would be in a grid down situation, You could charge your batteries up and search for, I guess, a civil society somewhere out there,
Right. Okay, I'm going to scare everybody again. Here's another option right here. This is also from Four Patriots. No, I'm not getting paid for this stuff, guys. It just happens to be what I have sitting next to me. But one of these solar-powered banks is something that's nice. This one's a little more robust than the average one you can get for $5 off of Wish. Yeah. You can get cheap ones off the Wish website. They're $5 plus like $2 shipping. They'll take 5-6 weeks to get to your house. But any kind of solar charger like this for a phone, if it's as long as it's not an EMP event, is a great idea.
I just got rid of one of those in my drawing. They are nice. I played with it before I sent it out.
Take and pick one of these up, put it in a
I don't know if you know about GearBest, but that's in China. It takes a month to get it, but man, you can get some good deals there.
Yes, you can. GearBest is an offshoot of Wish. They're both basically owned by the same company. The only other one is Alibaba or whatever it's called. I can't remember the exact name, but that's another one of those companies that they buy in such bulk. That's one of the reasons it takes so long to get it, is they'll take and place an order, or they'll have you place an order, and 2 weeks after you place the order, they place an order with the company that they're buying it from in such a large bulk. That's how they can sell it to you for $5 when it
that's why it takes
costs $25.
That's why it takes a month to get out of their country.
Exactly.
But I can wait 3-4 weeks. I'm never in a big hurry.
Yes, Cruiser. Banggood is another good one too, if you can get the parts you order. I ordered something last month, and it should have been here this month for an item I wanted to do a review on, and I still haven't got the item. But that's the thing when things come from China.
You just have to wait.
Right. At the end of last year, there was one of those ships that had like 20 containers fall off a ship in a bad storm. So that's 20 containers of people's products that'll never make it to their homes.
But they'll always get them. They'll pay for it some way. Just take longer to get there. You can get things like battery-operated camp lights too, or even buy those cheap oil and kerosene lanterns. Those kind of suck in an enclosed area if you got your house all closed up.
Well, for me, I'm fortunate. I live in a two-story duplex, or and it's got like 6 units on my side.
Condos?
I wouldn't call it a condo. It's not that fancy. Anyway, I actually have access to my attic. And in such an event where I had to, say, have a wood stove in the apartment in order to keep warm, I've already figured out a way and got it pre-planned, and I got most of the piping for it. I can actually duct a wood stove into the vents that are for like the toilet and the sink that are already in the apartment, and split the exhaust from the wood stove into those two, so I don't have to worry about smoke coming into my apartment.
Well, that's kind of cool. Old man, I saw your question. I can't have popsicles right now. I'm on a diet. No popsicles for a while, bud. You're going to have mine. Also, you should have candles and flashlights in every room of your wherever you're living at. If it's easier than trying to chase it down in the dark. Just have them laying around somewhere. That way you got light.
My 7-year-old play with a flashlight and run the batteries dead.
Or you could even have a headlamp or something, you know, something like that. Those are pretty basic stuff. And those headlamps you can get for like $1 if you look at the right place. Sometimes you get what you pay for, but if you don't have any money, $1 is $1, you know. Hey, Mo Mello, how you doing? So we would go back to what SOP says. If you have all these little gadgets so that you can have light where you're at, you need to make sure that that light's not getting outside so that the people outside can see it.
Can you guys see all that sitting right there?
I see a keyboard, yeah.
There's flashlights, a charger, a pair of phones, knives. Everything's sitting right here at the edge within reach, and I have a similar setup in my bedroom upstairs.
Yeah, I have a pistol sitting at the front door. I have a pistol at the front door. That works. That's a good deterrent. So it says in the winter you want to stay warm. So you may want to think about a fireplace. If you have a place out in the boonies, you probably have a fireplace. Now, a lot of apartments in big complexes, they'll give you like a little bitty one that's vented out the top. So those would be good things to have. Those would keep you warm in the winter months when the temperatures get really cold. So they're telling you wood stoves can be easily installed and save you tons of money because you can chop up chairs in your house if you have to.
Okay, and another quick tip. If you have a relatively large home and a really small stove, one thing you can do, and you want to do this in advance, is go to a creek or a river not far from your home or wherever you can get it. But you want regular river rock. You don't want nothing with cracks in it. You want nice, solid, round rocks, varying sizes. You can take and put those on top of your wood stove, heat the rocks, and then put them on a metal pan underneath a bed. You can keep your bed nice and warm and actually not even have to worry about the fire going out in the middle of the night. And you can stay warm that way.
Oh, heck yeah, I've forgotten all about that technique.
It's an old camping trick.
Yeah. I used to do that when I was camping. We used to put our sleeping bags on top of hot rocks that we buried in the ground and then roll our bed rolls out on top of it. We'd stay warm all night long. It works. They're also saying you can get portable heaters that run on kerosene or propane. Then again, you got to worry about venting that stuff out because that's not healthy for you guys to inhale in a closed space. Or you could even close off rooms that you're not using. If you're not using the laundry room, close those doors so you're not heating that area. If you got a basement in your house, find a way to close off that basement. Maybe put a door up there or something, and so you can get down to your preps, because most people that have basements will put their preps down in the basement where it's nice and cool. So that's just basic stuff of knowing not to let the cold air go or the warm air not go where it's supposed to. They come with vents. Are you talking about portable stoves? I don't know much about those. One of those ones that stand about 3.5 feet tall that look like an old radiator from back in the 30s that are kerosene. I've used those. Those kind of stink when you burn them. So another part, let's go to communication. Let's talk about what you have for communication so you can find out. I already told you guys about having a computer and hooking up every once in a while to see if you can find life in the real world. But there's other ways of communicating too. You could get walkie-talkies and you could make sure that everyone in your group or your family has one, so that if they get outside the house and get detained or get lost or are afraid and they run away and get lost, then they can communicate with you and you can find them. So walkie-talkies is a pretty good thing. Then this was the section I was going to have Walker talk about because he knows much more about it than I do, and that's ham radio, because those guys can skip. See, I don't even know how to talk, but they can do skips, and they can reach out pretty long ways, like around the world, to find out what's going on out there. If you have family on the other side of the continent, around the other side of the end of the world, then that would be a way to find out if they're still there and if they're still kicking.
In order to talk skip, you're going to need a fairly robust system.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do that with a handheld unit, but you're not going to get maybe more than 20 miles if you're sitting on top of a mountain.
Well, maybe skips is what I was thinking.
Right, but even with most handhelds, even if you use an 8-watt Bofang, it's still line of sight. You're going to need to be on top of a mountain, and even at 8 watts, you're still not really going to reach out that far.
Yeah, I have a Bofang, but I've never used it.
Right, you're going to need a mobile with a decent antenna, preferably one that is called a beam set. A set of beams you can actually point to the direction you want, and you're focusing 99.9% of your transmit that direction. Back when I ran CBs and ham radios when I shouldn't have been, I actually had a set of beams on my house, and I could sit in the middle of Michigan and talk virtually around the world, depending on the atmospheric conditions. If it was a nice clear night, I could talk New York like you and I are talking right now. I've talked to people in Australia. I've talked to people in Germany, although it was rather difficult to get through the, difference in dialect. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
But I was still able to do it. In order to do that, though, you're going to need a fairly robust system. You're going to need a good radio, a set of beams. You're going to need a linear. Linear is an optional item, but if you're trying to reach even just across the U.S. in even sketchy conditions, without a decent amount of power, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, you have to get a pretty good base unit to be able to do that. Walker Outdoors, him and I are pretty good friends, and he just went through about 3 months of training for ham operators. He got the very top of the list that you can go for ham operators. And that's what he's been doing. He hasn't been doing his channel because when he comes back, he's going to start introducing that into the prepping community, knowledge and all that stuff, and tell people how they can get it too. And he was telling me that the licenses are $15, and that's for pretty much forever. Every 10 years, you have to give them a couple of bucks to renew your little license thing. But other than that, it's $15, and you can go test all day until you get to the top of the list or something like that. That's how he explained it to me. Yeah, so he said he gets out and he talks to people. I can't remember where, Germany, I think he was saying. And the only way he does that is he has a cable that he climbed up the tree, put it over a branch, and ran it back down. And he's got 3 stakes out in the ground that ground it. And he said he can talk the other side of the world. That's just a piece of cable running over a tree. Just think if he had it sticking up in the air, how far he could get,
ZPD, in my personal opinion, and I'm biased on it, and I know there are other people who will differ with my opinion, but the Ranger RCI 2950 and the RCI 2970 would be the best bet. They cover a lot of ham frequencies, although not the high-end bands, but it also covers military frequencies, and it is transmit and receive if you have the proper wafer board installed into it.
I think, see, that's why I wanted to have Walker on here, is because he knows all that stuff. He just got done taking all the testing. He's been out in his yard playing around, and he knows it all. But he just recently, I think within the last couple of days, bought the biggest receiver that you can get. I'm not sure what the brand name is, but he said he can talk around the world with just that wire going through the tree. He said it's all in how you key it on your receiver.
And something a lot of people don't mention either, and I know Survival Comms brought it up once before in another chat about a month and a half, 2 months back. When you're building an antenna and hooking the wires up to it, if you're doing it from scratch, every frequency has a preferred length to get down to a zero match. Your standard CB is 3 feet. Every 3 feet will give you a zero match as a rule. It's not 100% accurate, but as a rule, every 3 feet. So if you got 72 feet to the top of where you're mounting your antenna, make sure you build a cable that actually matches the frequency length needed to bring you to a zero match. There's a lot of
stuff. Sounds like you got a lot to. You could talk to Walker a long time.
Well, I drove truck for 30 years, and as a truck driver, 3 o'clock in the morning, you're driving down the highway. It gets pretty boring listening to all them other bozos yak on the radio. So it's nice to be able to reach out and talk to other people.
Yeah, I know a couple of good truck drivers. I know I've gone on a trip with a few of them. You get tired of listening to the yak. So we're going to kind of get down towards the end here. I think we'll talk the basic security stuff now. So security is going to be a big deal, even if you're going to bug in. That's a give me. So if it actually goes into a long-term situation, you may have to defend your home. Think about it. We've talked about it all evening already. The average home is not very defensible. It's all in what you plan for. It's what we talked about the whole evening about preparing, about putting the plastic on the windows and all that stuff. So make sure that your home doesn't look like a target. Let it get run down outside or something like that. And if you come outside of your house, make sure that you look like you're a bum from down on Skid Row or something, Don't make it look like you're living the king's world, So if your house is run down and it looks like you have nothing, it'll be less of a target. Have a beware of a dog sign up, even if you don't have a dog. Right out there at the beginning. I told you, if you got your own property, make sure you have a fence or a hedgerow or something about 100 yards away from your house. So you want to make sure that you have a sign out there that says beware a dog, even if you don't have one. That could deter somebody from coming up to your property. And then as SOP said, you could also have motion detectors and cameras. And that way, if anybody's coming, they can warn you that you can have a gunshot go off or a siren like I have on my alarm or something like that. At least you have a heads up and they're coming. So we covered all that stuff. The fence, the wall, the bushes. It's even telling you that have a pathway that comes right up to your house. Make it so they have to go on that path to get to your front door. And that means if you have to grow bushes or something around the outside of the pathway, make it so that's the only way they can go. You may want to put some booby traps or something in the bushes or whatever, so that they can't see them. And if they go out there, then it's like SOP said, a shotgun blast goes off, or they hit a tripwire and a siren goes off. But that just forces them back onto the path. And that way they can't split up and go around you. Also, if you're putting up bushes and flowers and stuff like that around your home, and it's going to be kind of hard if you live in an apartment. I understand all this, but if you live in a home, you could do that. And then while you got somebody watching out the front windows or out the door or something, one of you could go out and skirt around and come up behind them. It's just little things like that that kind of keep you safe. If you come up behind them and scare the hell out of them, excuse my French, it's going to deter them from wanting to come back. They won't know how many people are in your house. Got all that done. Man, I had a lot written down, you guys. Excuse me for shaking the camera. So the inside of your home should be prepared as well. You should have your license. You should have your licenses for your firearms, and you should have ammunition ready to go, and you should have weapons that could be things like a bow or a crossbow, things like SOP was saying. Pepper spray. Wouldn't even hurt to pick up a stun gun. They have different ones. You can set them to knock the guy out. You can set them to kill the guy. You can buy little ones. You can buy big ones. Go. Oh, I like that one. That's on the flashlight?
Yep, this is an $11 flashlight off of eBay.
eBay, huh?
Yep, it's,
You're going to keep me busy because I like toys like that.
Yep. Well, considering where I live, I have to keep non-lethal items in this house.
Oh, you can't have firearms?
Technically, no, and I will not admit if there is or is not one in this apartment at this time.
I hear you. I can say whatever I want. I got it concealed, so.
I will not admit that either way either.
I don't care if they know. I'd rather them know than not know. I don't want to kill anybody if I don't have to. I killed enough people when I was in the military.
Well, I have a working relationship with the sheriff's department around here.
Oh, nice.
As well as the state police and the local police.
Nice.
I actually had to go to court to represent them on a few cases in this complex due to drug activity or a crazy lady that we had living here who took some box and over abused it. And she came out of her apartment naked one day and climbed into the dumpster looking for her house keys. But that's beside the point.
Those are always a good laugh anyway. Okay, let me get back here. Your door to where you live should be steel or solid wood, and the door frame itself should be steel. That's so they can't charge your door and kick it in. But if you can't, you could always put tons of nails around what you got and try to make it really hard for them to get in there. You could put in you could put L hooks on each side of your door and put a 2x4 or 4x4 across there when excuse me, at night, so that nobody can wake you up by storming in your house. There's ways of securing your door, but this is the ideal way. So if you're setting up to make sure that you're prepared for anything, one of the things you might want to consider is putting in a better door. That is at the front and the back if you have a back door. And then always have a line of sight. People are going to get crazy, real crazy out there when things go upside down for a long period of time. So you want to make sure that looking out your windows and your doors and whatnot, you have a clear line of sight of any possible openings in your perimeter. There's another thing they say, if you can create a safe room. Safe rooms are pretty good because you can make it look like nobody lives there. The door going in is camouflage is the best word I can come up with for now. I have a buddy that has a safe room, and you could not tell it by just walking into his house. He's one of these conspiracy theory guys, and so he's got a safe room, even though he's, excuse me, truck driver. When he's at home, he plays these little games, and he says one day, he says, "Hey, let's go in my playroom." And he comes up and he has this little remote control, pushes a button, and this door just pops open. Well, it looked like there was just a bookcase there, but it was a door that actually opened up and it was a safe room. I was just totally amazed. I go in there, he's got his gun vault in there, he's got a refrigerator in there, he's got food preps in there. So, he had a fancy one, but everybody can make a safe room, even if you don't have a ton of money. Just make you, like we talked about at the beginning, have a false wall somewhere in your home, somewhere where you can just run to if all heck breaks loose. Say the marauders. That's my favorite word. If you haven't noticed, you have a group of hoodlums coming and trying to get everything you got, and they don't care whether you live or you die. So you can pretty much have that figured out before they ever get there and get into your safe room. Sorry about the truck driver thing, but it's how it is.
I drove truck for 30 years. I can take a joke just as good as the rest of them.
Yeah, he's a pretty crazy guy. He comes in my chat sometimes. I hope he's not in here tonight. So it just depends on how much you want to bug in to what steps you take to it. The big thing is, don't think just because you're bugging in that you're always going to bug in, because it's just like that something could happen and you're going to have to get the heck out of Dodge.
Yes.
So
always have a backup plan. Always have a bag ready. I've got multiple bags, as I've shown in videos. For me, my intention is to never bug out. But let's say my apartment catches on fire. I'm suddenly homeless. Me and my son are going to have to bug out. I have a route that we can walk, and I know where there's several semis parked that I've already secured the rights to use, as long as they still run, which one of them will, because it's a 1975 International Trans decab that I really don't fit in, but it will run. And the guy keeps it full of diesel because he starts it every week and he runs it around his farm. And if that's not available, I know a mile and a half south of me is a horse farm. I've already talked to them, and they are preppers as well. They just don't they don't advertise it to nobody. I just happened to have a chance meeting with the owner, and he said I can barter for the use of horses if I need to. So always make sure you have a backup plan, because plan A doesn't always last.
Exactly. Yep. I was going to cover bartering too, but you guys seem to pretty much know, some of you do anyway, about making sure that you have the things to barter, because you think about it, if all hell breaks loose and it's a long-term, extra long-term, whatever scenario, banks aren't going to be giving you money. So you're going to have to go back to the 1800s, 1700s. You're going to have to barter for what you want. And the biggest thing that you can actually barter are skills, because a lot of people aren't going to know the same things that you know. You could actually use your skills as an excellent barter tool. Hey, I'll do this for you if you can do this for me, And that's going to be a biggie, but there's other things that are going to come into play as well. Could be booze and cigarettes and things like this. So I don't smoke, but I would probably think about getting couple of cartons of cigarettes together and just putting them in my preps, because they're nothing to me, really. It's just another prep. Or alcohol. I quit drinking years ago, so that has doesn't call my name or anything, but a lot of people still do that.
Yep.
And it will be a good stress reliever for them,
Right. And having those little single shot bottles that are like $3, $4, $5, depending on what you're getting, is usually enough to keep the local riffraff at bay for a short time, and has been postulated in other chats on somewhat larger groups, even some that are nothing more than sellouts, in my honest opinion. As postulated in those groups, you can actually barter for people to do something for you with said alcohol and or tobacco products. They may be willing to, there may be, like, I know a guy that lives in the very back of the complex I live in. He drinks a lot, he smokes, but he works. I mean, he's a hardworking guy, but if things collapse, that steel mill he works at isn't going to be working anymore. But he knows how to weld. I've got stuff up here I can trade for him to weld something up for me if I need it. You know, if we need to weld bars for our windows, I'll help him go to the steel mill. We'll grab steel. We'll come back and we'll weld something up to protect our homes. So
Yep.
I mean, having stuff like that is a very valuable barter item.
Cindy Tipper seems to think if we could have a meth lab, that'd be good barter. That's what you heard me chuckling
I
about.
can't do that. My son
I can't either.
that crap.
I can't either, but I thought it was funny. Yeah, airplane bottles. It's like me. You guys know I do leather works, and so that's going to be really in demand, I think, if all hell breaks loose. But I welded for over 30 years, so I'm pretty good at that. I must be pretty good at that because it's all I did most of my life. So there's things that can be put out there, but I like the thing about the airplane bottles. I like the thing about using your own skills to barter or use somebody else's skills to get what you need. Or you could dangle those little bottles over in front of somebody's face and they would probably dig a hole all the way to China for you by the time all this happens, you know. So, yeah, you're right. But the more things you got to barter, the better. Things like soap. Soap will be a big thing, just like bar soap. Maybe toothpaste would be a good thing. You're going to have to take care of your teeth too, but have some extra that you can just say, hey, your mouth stinks. You want to barter some toothpaste or something, you know? Just the little things, you know?
When it comes to bartering soap and shampoo and stuff, my personal thought on this is to pick up for yourself waterless shampoos and soaps. Most of your survival stores sell it. I've got a couple bottles of it myself. And
you
that
can
way,
make your own too, yeah.
Right. That way you can actually barter away the stuff that takes water and keep the stuff that doesn't take water for yourself. That way they're going to come back to you. Do you have a way to make water clean? I might, but it's going to cost you.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of people caught with their pants down. It's a sad fact. I run into people every day that say, hey, that's not my concern. I living for today. You know, I'll worry about that when it happens. Well, I really hate to be that person, especially if they have a family. I just shake my head. I said, I don't understand how you can do that, but it's your life. They'll be the marauders. So we covered just about everything I've got, you guys. I can't believe it. I really appreciate SOP helping me. If you guys have any questions, put them in the conversation box in capitals, or if you have something to add. So,
and in case there's somebody in here who's new to prepping, they're not totally familiar on how to start small. Don't try thinking you have to buy that $500 bag that you see advertised on Facebook that's not worth the $2.50 it costs them to advertise it. A lot of those pre-bay bags are Gucci bags, nothing. That's all they are. They're not for people who are actually serious about prepping. Start small. Start with water storage. Once you get 50, 60 gallons of water storage, start on food storage. Buy yourself a dehydrator. Start small. Dehydrate some beef, then taste it. Rehydrate it and taste it. Get used to what you prep. Prep what you eat and eat what you prep. If you don't, I guarantee you will have intestinal issues the minute you start. Your stomach will revolt and you will need anti-diarrhea pills out the wazoo. Anybody that's in the military that's eating MREs will tell you there are certain things you just don't do when it comes to pre-packaged meals. And you don't want to eat pre-packaged meals constantly. You will have stomach issues one way or the other. You'll be constipated or you'll be running to the bathroom every 5 minutes. Don't try to do everything all at once. Start small. That's the best advice I can give to anybody. If you see something you like and it's outside your price range, either save up for it or buy something similar that costs less and use that until you can afford a better item. Don't go out. Don't put yourself $25,000, $30,000 in debt trying to build, an underground bunker somewhere and then paying on it for the rest of your life and not being able to fill it with anything. Start small. Start with the stuff you need: food, water. Then work on protection. Then work on the tools you need to build things with. Because you will. If you want to get serious with this, you're going to need a good saw. You're going to need a good axe or hatchet. You're going to need a good small shovel to carry with you. You need a good knife. Work on the things that you really need first. And then once you get the stuff, go out and practice with it. Don't do like some of these people that I know in other states who prep, who have $12,000, $13,000 worth of preps and have never sat outside their home with a tent and a sleeping bag to decide, can I do this with no problem? Am I going to have a... Got to find your weaknesses and work on those weaknesses. If you don't practice, when the time comes, you're going to be among the sheeple who are running around scared with their head stuck up their own butt. And I'd rather not see anybody. I'd rather see everybody be prepared for whatever comes, because the more people that are prepared, the less we have to rely on our government, and the better our government can actually respond in a situation if more people are prepared.
That's absolutely true. Don't let it overwhelm you. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time. Before I got real sick, I spent every moment I could out in the woods or on the fishing bank or whatever. And you can't do those kinds of things if you can't take care of yourself. I mean, I did a video, I don't know, about how you could just get a whole bunch of food together in a year just by spending $5 a week, And everything on that list is not perfect. So you could spin it around any way that you need for yourself, because some of the stuff in the list was repeated, and I got the list off of a website. So if some of the stuff that's repeated, just interject something else in there, something that I overlooked or that website overlooked, And then in a year, you spent $5, you only spent $60. You're going to find out you got a ton of food because you're just buying it a little at a time.
I go to the store twice a month to buy groceries. And every time I go to the store, I put $10 aside just for canned goods to prep. They don't get touched, but I rotate them out. I now have my entire kitchen cupboards full of canned goods, as well as a year and a half's worth of stored food upstairs that's in Mylar bags and there are various other places. So, I mean, you spend a year just buying $5 every time you go to the store, or $10, whatever you can afford, you will come up with more food than you can shake a stick at before you realize you've got it. But make sure you rotate your canned goods out. Don't sit them in a cupboard and forget about them, because you may go to open it and it's going to be past its expiration date. Expiration dates are only for...
They're only guidelines.
But some of the foods in cans, their expiration date is an actual valid thing. Don't go out and buy red kidney beans and let it sit in the can, because those will go rancid even in cans. Red kidney beans is one of the few that I'm aware of that actually go rancid shortly after expiration date. Just do some research, be smart, take your time, do it slowly, and before you realize it, you'll have a full cupboard full of food.
Absolutely. That's how I really started out. I started out really small because I couldn't afford it. So it works. I know. I can attest to it. It's a good thing. Make sure you got some portable tools like SOP's telling you, because you may have to bug out and you want to make sure they fit in your bag. They have all kinds of bug out tools out there that are inexpensive even. You just got to look.
And another thing too, and it's not something that I hear a lot of people said, I've mentioned it in a couple of my videos. If it comes down to where you have to bug out and you've got a very heavy bag, the last thing you're going to want to do is add more weight to that bag itself. You're not going to want to hang tools off the side of the bag. You're not going to want to hang bottles or a pistol on it or a gun on it. Or in my case, a sword and a gun and a pistol. Anyway, you want to get a load-bearing belt. Military webbing belt, 2-inch webbing belt is ideal because it has the old Alice clip holes in it. And that way you can get by buying old military surplus with Alice clips.
Takes a heck of a lot of weight off you too.
Right. It puts it down on your hips. So when you've got weight on your hips and your bag is properly seated, make sure you learn how to properly seat a backpack on your back. You can actually add 10 to 15 pounds total weight, and you really won't notice the difference unless you're trying to go uphill.
Yeah, mine was around the waist and around the chest.
Right. You need a belt, a waist belt on the bag itself, and a chest belt.
And you won't even realize you've got as much in there as you think.
Right.
But don't go trying to overdo it, because you're going to be the one walking with that thing.
Right. And like I put in my inch bag video, a good or bad idea, you know, inch bags can be a good idea if you're going to a place where you have resources. You know, you're going to, that comes up in the comms again, is having communications with a group of like-minded people that you can arrange to, hey, if this happens, knowing I'm down here, you're way over there, if I make my way to you, what do I need to say to you before I get there so I don't get shot?
Yep,
having communication in place. Because if it comes down to, 6 months to a year long grid down situation, it's going to be mass chaos in the first 2 months when people realize things aren't going to happen. So you're going to need to have a group of, you're not going to be able to go out in the wilderness and lone wolf it. It's just not going to happen. I know there's a lot of fancy fairy tales out there, but from somebody who's actually tried to live in the woods by himself at an early age, because I had nothing at the time. I didn't even have a car to live in. It's a lot harder than most, Bear Grylls makes it look all glamorous and glorious. Oh, congrats to Bill Grylls and Dave Canterbury for making it look glorious. But the reality is, it's not fun. It's not pretty. And it's a real pain in the butt. And after the first 2 weeks, you will be seriously stressed out, and you will start making bad decisions. You'll look at a rock, oh, I can climb that. And you're going to fall off and bust your knee or ankle, and there's nobody there to help. So network, find like-minded group people, even if they're 150 miles away. The average person in mediocre health could walk 10 miles a day, living on 2,000 calories. If they're in great shape, they can walk up to 25 to 30 miles. If I didn't have my son, I know I can walk, living on 2,000 to 2,300 calories in a day. I can walk 42 miles in one day. But with my son, I can't. So I have to plan accordingly. With my son, I'll be lucky to make 8 miles in a day because I'm going to have to stop for him. He's only 7.
Very good point. Yep. That's why I'm on my treadmill. I'm trying to slim down. I just don't know what's going to go on with our country, so I just try to do the best I can. I got health issues, and so I can take stuff. I'm already putting back meds that I'm going to need that I won't be able to get otherwise. So I cheat. And I gather up enough of my medicines that I can put some back, and I do that about every 3 months, because otherwise the doctors will catch on.
Right. And I've seen a couple of things in the chat about a cart of some sort. If anybody's ever watched Canadian Prepper, they know that little bike thingy he built or had built or worked on having get built. I've actually got a design similar, but not quite the same. I just haven't been able to build it yet because it requires a good welder and a few other things I don't have. But, the point was made, and you're right. You will need a cart, which will slow you down drastically.
Yep.
Because my preferred bug out location is 482 miles from where I'm currently at. And if there's no transportation, I don't think I'm going to get there anytime soon. Plus, there's also 17 cities that I have to cross through, even going through back roads. So I already know without transportation, getting there is pretty much a slim option. So
it's going to be terrible anyway, because if the grid's down, you're going to have headaches all along the way. There's going to be people trying to take advantage of you, which comes to the one point I want to say. This is the first of a 3-series thing. Next week on Monday, we'll be talking about security and bugging out. And then the last one will be while you're traveling and bugging out. So you know how to prepare for all those things as well. I would like to take the opportunity to ask SOP to come back for next week's panel as well.
If I haven't broken anybody's computer from looking at my face or hearing my voice, there's no serious objections. I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, I'd appreciate it. You really helped me out quite a bit I can't. I have to take notes. Like I said, I'm old. I can remember 30 years ago just fine, but remembering yesterday is kind of difficult.
And Kalen, is a basic deer cart could work. You're right, but the problem with that is those wheels are usually pretty narrow and wouldn't take 250 pounds as far as a long trip. You really want wider. And the design I've got, actually, if you've seen these kids bikes nowadays that have those 5-inch wide rear wheels on their bicycles, I'm using 2 of those with a military style insert so they don't take air.
Oh yeah, something like green slime would work.
I know I can get those wheels, but they're not cheap. And it's going to take an awful lot of finagling and butt kissing, so to speak, to get my hands on a pair of them to begin with. And that's me actually having to kiss up to my old drill sergeant back from when I was back in the Army.
Yes,
he's no longer a drill sergeant. He's actually a supplies person at the PX. I don't know what his rank is anymore. He was a sergeant back then. He's probably a lieutenant by now.
Well, you can buy those. I can't even remember what they're called because I've been looking into a cart for myself, But you can get this little thing that'll set on the frame and hook into the wheel. And after the wheel starts rolling, then it kind of gets its own energy and will keep push itself. And Walker's still trying to get in. You see that?
Yep. It may be, you see my icon there. My icon takes up an awful lot of space. I may be too fat for him.
Yeah. He might have had a couple of beers too. But yeah, I can't remember what it's called. It fits right on the side of whatever you're going to be building. I was a welder for 30 years. I had to figure out a lot of stuff, so I know basically where to go look for the stuff. But it goes down close to where the tire is. On the inside of the tire, you put in like a gear, and then this other piece kind of has a gear built inside of it, and you match up those 2 gears. And after you start rolling the cart or the bike or whatever you got, it creates energy. It creates energy and starts pushing itself.
Right. What the basic design is a portal axle.
Yeah, something like that. I can't think of what they're called anymore.
Portal axles will actually give you about 6 to 8 inches of extra ground clearance.
And it would be, you could probably pile a lot of stuff on there that way too, because then you're not exerting all those calories trying to get it to go.
Yeah, there's a lot of thought processes that have to go into a cart that would actually make it a viable thing to sell. The one I want to build, it cost way too much for me to try and sell it to anybody. We're like, $5,000-6,000. I have no intention of trying to sell my design.
Yeah, what you could do is get the design and make a crappy prototype and just get a patent on it and sell the patent. That'd be the easiest way to go. Let somebody else worry about building the real thing.
Yeah, and I have to be careful because I got to make sure my idea, which at the current moment it doesn't resemble Canadian Preppers in any way, shape, or form, other than the fact that it's got 2 wheels and a handbrake. The rest of the idea is entirely mine, and I have to do that because of copyright infringement. Yeah.
L.A. Prepper, I don't know if you watch any of his stuff. He comes on them just once in a blue moon, but he's working on something that looks like a sailboat. And it's going to either go on land or in water. And he's been working on it for a couple of years. But it looks like that could be kind of interesting, too. And he said he's not going to tell anybody how he did it. But he went to school for engineering, so he's got one step up already. That would be cool to be able to go in water if you had to. Because I don't think there'll be many boats out on the water. Ship type boats, maybe some
there will be a lot more people on boats than you imagine. Everybody that's got a sailboat, and I'll tell you right now, a friend of mine has actually been looking at buying a houseboat and moving down south, and he's already said if he gets it, I'm moving in with him. And I said, why? He says, because you know how to fix shit.
That's what my son, he's going to school for computers, and so when something breaks on the car, or he's out in the garage trying to figure something out and he breaks something, and the first thing it is, Dad, come show me what I got to do. But that's how they learn. So, any questions out there? I see Walker's still trying to pop in and out, but he can come next week. He has a lot of knowledge on that damn ham radio, though. I should hook you up with him.
Oh, I don't know anywhere near as much as I probably should know, but I know enough to make me dangerous.
Yeah, he keeps telling me to get my license, but I just got too much stuff going on right now to settle down long enough to get it. Maybe next year or something when I got more stuff taken care of here on my YouTube. I even got 2 channels, but I can't do much on the other channel. Too busy doing stuff on this one. So the other one just sits still. I use it to help people grow their channels. I go there and subscribe to them and stuff using that account. So
Take care, CR. Have a good one.
hey, CR, you have a good one. So any questions? We're about, oh, that went by pretty fast, actually. I was just looking at the clock. It's been almost 2 hours. Is there any questions? If not, I'm going to go ahead and close it up. See, I didn't see Diana. How you doing, Diana? Good to see you. Cruiser Max snuck in on me, and so did Cryptoman. You guys have a good night. I think I'm going to close her up. I don't see anything jumping out there. All right, you guys. Thanks for coming. You want to stay here for a minute, SOP? After I shut her off?
I can.
All right. All right, you guys. Thanks for coming. I hope you guys got something out of it. Kind of combined backwoods with what I had, but it all works together. I don't care who does it. We're all in this thing together. All right, you guys. Thanks. Good night. Have a good one.